All right, so welcome to the first ever installment of the Front Row Back Row podcast. My name is Owen Campbell. I am the owner of Simplify Motion Physical Therapy, and with me, my co-host, I have Dr. Brian Wolfe, the owner of Evolution PT and Fitness. So what we have decided to do, well, first of all, Brian, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good to see
Yeah.
you. As always, you're looking dapper and handsome.
Hey, I decided to put on my good shirt for this one.
Pretty
Those
face. It's good.
Now, what we decided to do is we decided to start a podcast because both of us, well, you can tell by the name, one of us sat in the front row and one of us sat in the back row. Um, and I'm just going to stop the mystery now. I was the back row. Brian was the front row. Uh, and
Spoiler alert.
you could probably tell that by where our career arcs have been. So, what we started out in school, we were both very driven. We both really wanted to have successful businesses in physical therapy. I just slacked for 13 years, and Brian pretty much started right out of the gate. So you'll get two very different experiences on entrepreneurship and physical therapy, as well as we both have our orthopedic clinical specialists. So we're board certified in orthopedists. So what we will also be covering is a lot of topics to talk on every different sport, every different angle. And I just want a little bit first so the listeners can know where we're at. Brian, kind of describe a little bit what you guys are doing over in Connecticut and Long Island over with Evolution Physical Therapy right now. And then if you can give me a little bit about what got you to this point, since we both were sitting, listening very diligently to all our professors and taking every note possible.
That's right. That's right. Well, first off, I don't think it's fair to put yourself down and say you slacked. That has nothing to do with slack. I just decided to grind my teeth on the curb for the last 8 years while I'm doing this. Now you decided to do it now. So that's the only difference. I think in terms of so kind of like to background, obviously Owen and I went to college together, became good friends. I think in terms of the physical therapy arc and career, I always knew that I wanted to start my own practice and own business. And, some life events that I had early kind of put some things in perspective mindset wise for me really, really early. We had as Owen knows, we had a close friend that passed away that when we were super young and I was 28 years old and said, why not us? I'd opened up a couple practices for two other people, had gotten frustrated with not so much their direction where the clinic was. I didn't get frustrated by that. I got frustrated by understanding what the business needed and where I wanted to take it. And owners basically kind of putting the kibosh on me twice in terms of trying to grow the business. The first one being, look, like I really just need to see patients and like I want to grow this office and this is the plans and where we wasn't set up for great growth the way I wanted to. I also was younger and didn't understand kind of how marketing worked and patient acquisition and that kind of thing. As far as then the next career move, obviously then I also moved to Connecticut and then moving to Connecticut, obviously taking over her job for a huge micromanaging person, who I thought had done quite well for herself, but I think also just was a tough personality to work with for me personally. And then where she had one foot out the door and it wasn't to give the practice to me, right? Or to sell it. So I had two choices at that point, was either to start my own thing or go do it again and work for somebody else. So, I chose to start my own thing basically from the ground up. Started seeing patients at their homes, brought tables to their homes. And now at this point, 8 years later, we've actually opened up 3 locations in Connecticut, gotten to a point where, another friend of ours, Mike and I are partners and in this business in Connecticut and have opened up 4 locations here, 3 locations here, one in Long Island as well. And so the good news is from a lot of different aspects of branding and marketing, it's also opened our eyes to some other people who've wanted to back our business, which is what allowed us to do the thing on Long Island that we've done. As far as what we're doing with Evolution and what's a little more unique is that we treat a ton of athletes from a standpoint of, every practice say, oh yeah, we treat athletes. We love work with athletes, but we do stuff we do consultation at the pro level as well. So in the MLS, the Premier Lacrosse League, Burton Snowboards, LA Marathons, like stuff like that we've done in the past, which has been awesome. And we still currently do today, LAFC as well. So we've worked in a lot of these really cool, arenas. And from that perspective, it's trickled down into what we do in our clinics, which we're working with not only pro athletes, but collegiate athletes, high school athletes, weekend warriors, etc. So that's a lot of our niche is in the, weekend warrior and athletic population, very active population.
Yeah, so to sum it up, he's living my dream. Uh, so and all this stuff. I mean, I've obviously been able to follow you since you started it, but it's been really cool to see how you've developed and adapted and what has become there with evolution. Um, and then I guess my biggest question for you then is kind of where do you want to go? Like, what do you see evolution in 5 years?
That's a cool question. I mean, I think what's interesting is when you first start the business, kind of like you're in the moment when you're kind of like building this momentum, when you're growing, I think there's a lot of this feeling of like, here's the goal, here's where I want to get to, here's where I want to get to. And then what you realize, and it's funny because as you know, I started also teaching this, right? So I started
Mhm.
teaching at Ithaca, where I went to college, and started teaching people how to set up school. And that was funny and surreal in a lot of ways.
Classic front row kid move, by the way.
which is
Become a
hilarious because
teacher.
you're posing me as this really amazing student, and you and I both know I was not this great of a student. I sat in
Yeah,
the
you were
front row out of
garbage, but
necessity and hoping to kiss some asses to hopefully to get through when I need to.
yeah,
In terms of the main process of like teaching and going through the process is understanding to slow it down, right? Like this is not it's not like you open the doors and all of a sudden you got a million patients and you're making $1 million a year. That's not how this works, right? Within a year. So I think where I started it was I wanted to get to a point where I could open up a location, right? And
Mhm.
open up a brick and mortar kind of place that I didn't have to drive around as much. That became clear to me after about 2 years
Yeah,
that I wanted to do. And then I think the next move after that was trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do from here? I think I definitely would have done some things differently now, kind of looking back on my experience. Um, and honestly, my goal right now is to kind of keep moving in the same direction I'm moving for the next 5 years. I think, and just keep growing the practice.
yeah,
That's the cool part of it is I think I've realized the people that are successful in this are people that love the process.
yeah.
And to me, I just genuinely love the process. I get here in the morning, I work out, right? Like I shower, I start my day
Good,
here,
good.
and then
Proud of
I'm here.
you.
Yeah,
Showering is
right.
good.
It's good, right? Sometimes not so much. Sometimes they get too busy and it doesn't happen, which sucks.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, even work, the hardest part has actually been at this point, there's so many different things I want to do
Yeah,
that the bigger issue is as we've scaled our business and grown, there's a lot of stuff I have to let go of. And
yeah.
so, one of which is actually treating patients as much as I
Uh,
used to. So, when I was, it's had to because now what's happened is the, quote unquote evolution of this whole thing has been, realizing that there are times where I can't always treat patients. I have to
mhm.
get to a point where, we're still growing the business. We're still meeting with people. Like this morning, I was meeting with an athletic director at a high school about
Yeah.
doing all their strength and conditioning stuff. Right. And so I need to be there. I can't hand that to somebody else to do.
Mm.
And so once you recognize that there's certain things you can't do, what was the hardest part for me to realize is the thing that I could hand off the easiest was actually patient care.
Yeah. And I
What
and I think that's going to be a big counterpoint when when I start talking is that I'm going to be almost opposite direction of what you did. You went from treating everybody, doing the Brian Wolfe treatment, and that's what kind of built your business. And now you're kind of looking into doing that administrative kind of background, right? And like to helping him grow and build the business. Whereas I see I'm kind of doing it backwards, right? So I started as your typical big box PT staff person, right? And then I just worked my way up into management. So you are now earning that in a way of like, from the entrepreneurial side up, I just had a skill for managing people, so I did a lot of the administrative stuff first. Now, the interesting thing now is again for the listeners to know is that I am kind of starting where Brian did, what, 10 years ago, right?
like eight
Uh,
years ago. Yeah, yeah,
8 years
7 8 years
ago,
ago.
yeah. So a lot of this podcast is going to be a lot about me. I'm going to be honestly having a free consulting session, and everyone's going to be around for it. And I've already called him about 8 times in the last 3 months. But I just started my own mobile PT practice, like pretty much everybody in physical therapy now, cash based only. And I mean, it's a question of, do I want to do grow and scale and get insurance into it later? Maybe not. I'm just kind of figuring out how to walk into somebody's home with a table and toolbox worth of stuff and not seem creepy, right? So, but I'm learning all the marketing things. I'm learning all that, going along, listening to all the different, people who've done it before, people who want to do it, and I think that it's going to be a really great kind of back and forth between Brian and I about how to do that from a business side. But the nice thing is, we've both been grinding treating patients for 13 years, right? And now, have we done it 40 hours a week every single week for 13 years? No, right? Because we've either points of our life had management responsibilities. So a lot of this podcast is also going to be clinical pearls, right? So like hopefully we can either help out some new grads or even some patients who are really, really interested in how to get and optimize certain parts of their body, certain sports. Brian, with his involvement in soccer, his involvement with lacrosse, his involvement with pretty much everything. I mean, you're with what, Bobby Valentine's? Are you still doing
Yep.
that with
Yep. Yep.
the old baseball coach? He's got his sports facility out in Connecticut. So, we neither of us got to a pro level in any of those sports, but we're pretty darn good at treating them. So that's what this podcast is going to also be focusing on. Is looking through what Brian's journey is, what his mistakes have been, what he would have done better, and what he's done really well that hopefully can share. What I've done in the people management side, but then also what I'm doing now, where you hope and pray that next meeting gets you at least 2 patients,
For sure.
and then we go on. So it's the biggest takeaway that I'd like to add is I just kind of want to chat and hang out and talk with my buddy, man. This was always the fun part of weddings after PT school is our wives got to be really good friends because we would just have a few beers and go off in the corner and talk PT, and then they would get mad at us. But then eventually they became friends, so they're actually kind of fine with us going away.
It worked all right. It worked all right. It worked out perfectly for us. On the plan.
This is how we do it without kids and without flying to random places across the country. We just have a podcast every week.
Exactly. It makes it nice and easy.
Yeah. All right. So from that, I think that's a good way to sign off here on our initial podcast.
Cool.
And hopefully with this, I will learn how to edit, cut, whatever, and be able to at least make something functional.
I like it. That works. This is short form.
There you go. They will be longer eventually once we actually plan things out.
Exactly. Well, the short term for the other stuff, the promotional stuff,
Oh yeah. Yeah. My God, I'm gonna every one of our current listeners right now.
Exactly.
That's a free T-shirt.
Exactly.
Probably just gonna be our wives.
Stuff. Exactly. Perfect.
All right, man. Well, good talking to you. Have a great day.
Man. You as well too, man. See ya.